Welcome to Nevermind the Furthermore with your host, Brian K. Morris, independent publisher, freelance hybrid author, award-winning playwright, and former mortician's assistant. Beware, beware. That might not be a phone jingling in your pocket. Join the Nevermorians for morning mischief and madness at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 Central. Your sense of humor is the only thing you need to wear.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nevermind the Furthermore special edition, special MAPLD edition for Saturday, August 15th, 2020. And I'm your host, Brian K. Morris, and I appreciate you watching this, whether you're watching us live on YouTube or Facebook or going to catch us later on the reruns. Anyway, if you're watching on Facebook, please like the platform you're watching it on. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe and hit that little bell, and you'll be notified of future broadcasts when we show up here, because we're going to conquer the media with your help. Anyway, we want to thank everyone from MAPLD, and we're going to bring them on right now. They are awesome. They are wonderful. You know them. You love them. You can't get enough of them. There is Maria Gonzalez and her honey, Jack Gonzalez. Welcome, both of you. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Well, don't thank me. Thank you for having me. This is I had a blast yesterday doing the show on here, and we're going to do another hour or so here, and we've already got people piling into the rooms here. We're going to see on YouTube and Facebook. And how's everything going? You guys have been busy today too, haven't you?
Yeah, it's been pretty busy. I want to say we ended the night at like 1,800 views on all our content. And we're up to 3,600 views on our content. And like, I gotta paint the picture for everybody. You know, Brian, we're south of Chicago, so you kind of miss the Madison area. So yeah, you think about Orland, you think about Tinley Park, you know, you think about Homewood, but Madison's there. And last year we did our in-person event, and we were expecting 200 to 300. We almost got 1,000. We didn't know what to expect digitally. Nobody knows what to expect digitally online. But everybody came out. I'm so grateful to all our patrons, all the fans that you have, Brian, and a lot of the other guests that we had, the panelists and the talent that have come through. We really appreciate everybody's support. Thank you. Hearts from librarians to yours.
Very cool, very cool. Now, Jack, you've been busy today too, haven't you?
Yeah, I worked midnight, got out at 8 in the morning, and decided to do some live art for the Madison Library.
Very cool.
That's because you love me.
And who can blame him? I didn't survive 29 and a half years in my marriage not know how to do this. Anyway, so anyway, we've got the cool people showing up from YouTube. Carl Witzman saying hello, everyone. And Carla Carlene, hello, hello. And hi, sweetie. Hi, Carl. How you doing? Good to see you. And hey there, Sugar. Hey, you two. Oh, they're not talking to me. They're talking to each other. Hold on a second. And Jesse Marie Stuck, he says, yay, I'm on time. Finally. Well, you are in time, because we're gonna cover some cool topics today about writing. And hello, Nevermorians on the road. Those are my people, the Nevermorians. And Clyde Hall, a very talented writer and cosplayer, is the gentleman who came up with that. And there's my darling Sarah. Sarah, mwah, who is inexplicably up while the sun rises and probably hearing the flesh peel from her bones. And Christian Basil, I came to see Brian's beautiful. Well, if you play your cards right, young man, and I know you will, don't ask about hashtag buttbeard. It's a sad thing. Anyway, Carl Winston says, Maria, hope that you are thinking about writing now. Now, you've had 24 hours. What have you gotten accomplished, young lady? What have you really gotten done?
So we got off. I thought 8:30 was 10:30 at night, so I was very tired. But I did. I am considering. I was telling Jack about it too. So yeah. Hopefully you'll see me on a show being like, "Yay! Look at I have a book finally."
Well, she's got somebody on her side who is going to do everything they can to promote her book and encourage her. kind of the way I encouraged my mom to quit smoking. It was easier to go through the shakes and listen to me. But anyway, there's Sarah, gorgeous guests, aren't they though? Aren't they though? Yeah, I keep saying, I keep threatening actually to just leave the broadcast and leave it to them, except I'm the one with the controls here, so I better hang around. And congrats on the views.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Sarah, for tuning in.
Yes, and Carl Wisman says, I've been to Matson several times. Nice city.
Nice, thank you.
Yeah, I think I've driven by there because I hate driving in Chicago proper, because there's a side of me that comes out on the expressways that I just nobody ever see. I knew this was happening when one time I was on the tri-state, and at one point during construction, and I realized at one point the traffic had stopped, and I was leaning out the window of the car I was driving like an old train conductor, screaming obscenities and shaking my fist at the other drivers. And I thought, maybe I need to take a more circuitous, route. So I used to drive up like 45 or 47, Mannheim Road or Harlem Avenue, and go that way up to like one of the cross streets, and then go downtown that way. It added like an hour and a half to my drive, but it made it a lot more pleasant for the people in the car with me. So I'm pleased to say. So anyway, we are going to be talking about the creative process here, including world building, which is something, we don't get into the nuts and bolts of the writing process, but anytime you're writing, I think, anything but contemporary fiction, you probably have to build some sort of world for people. And even if you're in a genre that, if you're trying to attract people, for instance, if you're writing a police procedural novel, you've got to set up that world, because there is a culture in, like the police culture. There is a lawyer culture that John Grisham explores, or a science culture that Michael Crichton explores so well. And so, let's see, I'm getting a notice here from one of the places. Indie Event isn't running us. So, okay, Indie Event, we will go without you. Anyway, missed out. Anyway, but no, both of you as creators now, Jack, you're an artist, and Maria, now you're a writer. You can't get out of it. What kind of different worlds have you explored? And either one of you can take it. And how did you introduce this information to your audience?
So when I I don't know if I'm getting an echo. 1 second.
I think you're okay.
I apologize for that.
You sound fine. You sound fine.
Okay, it was just on my side then. Yeah, so I created, I guess the one book that I got published on Kickstarter was The Last Unicorn. Like, it's not the Beagle, the Beagle Last Unicorn. This is a depressed unicorn.
One.
Yeah. No. This is the good one. But yeah, so I went and started exploring Greek mythology, because a lot of the characters that were going to be involved, even though unicorns are more Scottish than Greek, were from Greek mythology. So I wanted to see how other people had explored those worlds. But right now, the world that I'm creating, I'm doing this whole big old project, and it might be way too big, but sometimes you just got to be ambitious. And it's Brujas, and it's going to be exploring different types of witchcrafts from different cultures. So it's just, you got to know the rules. I guess you got to establish your own rules, so that people understand what you're trying to tell. Because I think I'm rambling right now, so let me just.
No, you're fine. You're on target, Jack. You're on target. You're doing great.
You have to have some kind of rule, especially when you deal with magic. I believe that's kind of the best stories. You don't want just a overpowering person that could just do whatever kind of magic and solves every problem without ever being any consequences or them having to give up something. So that's kind of like the world that I'm building. I want to have a balance. Even if you do white magic or you do something good, something has to be given up in order for that to work. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, that marvelously too, I might add. It makes a lot of sense because you're going into a fantasy world where, in a lot of cases, a lot of people will have no basis of comparison, no one spot where you can say, okay, other than the grass is green, I don't know what else is going on here. And I think you made a good point about the magic too, because some people make it like, okay, I point my fingers and the magic happens. Whereas, like you said, if you research, uh, legitimate magic, if you will, that yes, a lot of people think that you have to pay some sort of price, whether it's like a sacrifice of someone else or your own, or just something that makes it so that not everyone in your story can do magic. Because then it becomes something too common, too easy, too Deus ex machina or whatever. So no, you answered that wonderfully. Good job, sir. Good job.
Thank
Now,
you.
Maria, how about you? How about you? Now,
I was laughing at Sarah's comment. I was like, "Yay!"
I thought you would like that.
I've cosplayed as Harley Quinn, so it's fitting. So, no, yeah, my writing style, I didn't really know the style I had. It wasn't really, like, we were talking about this yesterday. It doesn't fit comics as well. When I started writing the horror short story I did in the One Frightful Night comic we did with Jack as my artist, I was describing scenes and things as if I was a cinematographer for a movie. So I had different things painted in my head that I felt were restricted through panels in the comic. So he was trying very hard to portray, within so many pages of the limitations we had for the anthology. And yeah, he was like, I see your vision, but you really need to write this. You could get more descriptive and you get more into the story. And to kind of give a little bit of the story, it's about a little girl. She's in bed and she wakes up and she's in a field. And as she looks around, the field starts to change. And you don't know if she's dreaming or not, or if she is in a state of dream, or if she's actually in a field. My fear in horror is like alien abduction movies. I hate them. It's one of those things you don't know if it's a real thing, or if you don't know if there is life on another planet. Nobody knows that, So it's just like possession movies. It's all kind of like you don't really know if there's these elements out there. So those are one of the big subgenres of horror that do scare me. So my character in my story thinks she's sleeping in her bed, but she's not. And as you go through these different scenes and she's looking around, small things start to change and it starts to actually warp into the lab area that she's actually in. But the way I had it unfolding would have been way more dynamic in a written piece than in a comic, because we were only, how many pages, Jack? 4 or 5 pages?
4 or 5 pages, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
but you did an amazing job. For my friends who read it at the last panel, he made it so dynamic of the faces around her when her eyes really open and she really wakes up. The look of those creatures looking back at her, everybody said that was a really good image. So he did work on the imagery and stuff like that. But as he tells me, I'm very descriptive in the way I like to tell stories. And as watching a lot of movies as an only child, you pick up on perspectives and you pick up on angles and the way things come into a scene. And so I have a habit of over analyzing those areas, and it's hard for me to break it down into a comic. So that's why the writing thing might work for me.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Jack.
No, I was just gonna say, in the last project that unfortunately we weren't able to include her story. It was she had this big grand idea, and I love the story. It's a different twist on El Cucuy, which is the Hispanic boogeyman. But the way she was describing the scenes, I'm like, I don't know how we could actually show what you're trying, because the way she was setting it up was so creepy. But like horror comics are done in a certain way where you can only suspend your reader until they turn the page, and then that's where you get them with the horror. But it's really hard to portray emotions. Like, I think Junji Ito is a master of horror comics, and he does a wonderful job with it. But like, I'm not Junji Ito, and there's not a lot of artists that could actually set up a mood like that. And I was just telling her, like, you should either write this out, because reading a book, your imagination is the one that kind of portrays the images, and it could be way more limitless than the limitations a comic book has.
Yeah, that's one thing in editing other people's comic scripts that people just don't realize that it's not like a screenplay. It's semi screenplayish in format, but you are basically like, say you've got like a Watchmen kind of 9-panel grid. You're taking 9 snapshots
Yes.
of time rather than fluid motion, or call it 24 to 30 frames a second, whatever, to tell your story. That you have to capture that moment that exactly pushes the story forward and sets the tone. And there's a lot of moving parts that people just don't realize about comics. And I'm listening to this and I'm like, I want to see this. I really do. I want to see this thing get printed. So Jack, I'm gonna start nagging you too. Anyway, and Jack's going, oh great. Anyway, Christian Basils, who is the host of the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS, please check that out. That's legendoftravelingtardis.com. Maria, as a creative couple, and when your creativity comes head to head, how long does Joe stay in the doghouse?
So we set limitations. Like we just, for like example, it was a really good conversation. I'm just gonna put it out there, Jack. For your Bruja comic, we a lot of times for his Last Unicorn, he'll bounce ideas off of me. But sometimes I'm not in his creative head, and he already has the story. It's unfolding. It's there. It's breathing its own life. So for somebody on the outside, it's hard for me to have either the same excitement or understanding of the characters he's already developed in here, because they're not even here yet. They're not even on a physical plane. So for his new story, he was like, I already have an idea. And I'm like, okay, so do you want to piggyback or bounce ideas? He's like, no, I have it. And I said, okay, well, that means I don't have to give you an opinion. I just get to enjoy it as a reader, as somebody from the outside. So we've never really had a boundary. We've always kind of like bounced ideas, but this is what he feels very strong that he already has it in his mind to do. So as a wife and as a couple, being a partner with somebody that's creative and being creative, I respect that, because that means I don't have to have the responsibility of giving him, criticism when you want to be honest. Because I don't want to be the wife that's like, oh, that's great, that's perfect, go ahead. No, change the panel. It could be more dynamic, or, I like the wording here needs to be changed, or this needs to be more bold. It could be more oomph in the panel description. But I'm excited to see what he does for this one. He's a good writer as it is. He just has a little more dedication in himself. There's a little more oomph.
Well, for this one, I really just wanted her to experience this as the audience and go with the ride with it, because honestly, I've constantly had stories of, and most of them have been women that I was writing, and because I guess when I'm writing, I get more in touch with my feminine side when it comes to this, like, and I've always mostly had protagonists be women, and so I wanted it to really just be something where she would be surprised too with the way it's going to unfold, because I'm really using witchcraft not just from one area. Like there's one of them that has European influences, but I also wanted to put some Mesoamerican, because they don't get a lot of medium out there. So this is why I told her, I'm like, you'll see this when it's kind of more ready, so that you can tell me what you think from what my head on paper, what you think, and not because sometimes if you're talking to somebody too much, your conversations will influence you and make you change something. And I don't want something to change in this one. This has been something that's been brewing in the back of my head for a long time.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, have you guys discussed like other projects together, or do you think you'll be working together a lot as husband and wife, or with other people? Where do you see yourselves going with this?
Well, I have an idea. There's not a lot of, well, I'm Puerto Rican, and there's not a lot of Puerto Rican like fiction or like folklore out there, because to be honest, they were pretty much conquered before any real like information came out of the Tainos, the legend that they had. But there is this story that I've kind of been brewing. But see, my problem with writing is I have the skeleton. I don't have the just the finesse, the meat on the bones for it. And sometimes I need a creative type to just kind of like put me in a direction of like, okay, maybe this should work, or what if this could be something that the protagonist could have as a powerful item, or what if this conflict came up instead of this conflict. So Jack's really, really good at painting a picture. He reminds me, like, I know it's I know he would hate to say this, but when I hear Guillermo del Toro speak about stories and legends, and always his mind keeps going and he's always drawing and doodling stories, he does the exact same thing. And having the Mexican heritage in the background and coming from around the same area, like, I think he should be proud of that, because he drives me crazy with the stories. I'm pretty sure Del Toro was driven crazy with his wife, you know, the stories. But yeah, I would love to do a story, a fiction story, a piece about the Vigente masks that are in Puerto Rico. They're kind of like those Spaniard masks, kind of like devils with horns, but they're supposed to ward off spirits. But I wanted to change up that folklore a little bit and have it a little more twist to it. But Jack was going to help me with that. And then we have our friends from Guerrilla Publishing who are doing a Cryptic Closet probably 3 next year. So I hope to be in that one too.
Very cool. Jack, what about you?
Honestly, like right now, the only thing that I'm working on is Brujas, but like she said, I wouldn't, like, I would help her get whatever she needs out there. One thing that I've always told her too is to reach out to a community. Just because we're married doesn't mean that we have to be married in every project. And I'm not going to be jealous, or I'm not going to be upset if, you know, she finds somebody that she works with well, because sometimes if, you know, being a couple, sometimes you don't know how to actually criticize something, or you try to, like, either sometimes you come off too hard because you want them to succeed and you're like, no, this is the right way to do it. And it might not be the right way. You might think that's the right way, but it's not. So yeah, I would love to work in a project with her, and hopefully now that she's getting a little bit more confidence in writing, she could just take it full on. And I would just love for her to give me the script and be like, here's the script, draw these panels, and I'll be like, okay. But yeah, it'll be great.
That's great. And remember, folks, everyone watching out on YouTube and Facebook, if you have any questions of this couple, please ask. We would love to field them while we've got them as a captive audience here. So anyway, getting back into world building, I love listening to you guys and hearing you talk about taking things that other creative types don't seem to have explored for whatever reason, different cultures, and the idea of mixing them up. How do you feel about, you know, obviously you don't mind doing it, you know, and I think it makes for a much richer story in a lot of ways. But are there certain non-fictional aspects of the cultures or the settings that you're thinking of that you'd like to, you know, what specifically would you like to see brought out in your work?
For me, well, like, Latin America was not just conquered. A lot of the stories were lost and destroyed. So for me, it's like I want to represent that part of my culture. Not to get too political here, but coming from full Mexican, my parents are both Mexicans. A lot of people in Mexico tend to be proud of the European part of the heritage. They look down on the indigenous people. So it's very ethnocentric, where they're like, oh, like I'm light skinned, I don't look Mexican, and you know, down there, if you're light skinned Hispanic, you're automatically somehow portray yourself like if you're in a higher status. However, I think that needs to change. I think that we should be proud of all our culture, of everything, because Mexico wouldn't be Mexico without our indigenous background. So, and then what you were saying is how I feel about mixing mythologies and cultures and all that stuff is like, in the end, everything was made up. All the mythologies and all that stuff were made up, and they were influenced by not just the people in that area, because there was trading. There's been evidence that Africans and Asians and some of the Euro-Asians who were trading with the Americans way before Columbus and anybody ever came over here. So it's like, if you look at the ancient Americans and the ancient Africans and the ancient Asians, like Chinese and all that stuff, there's so much in their art that you could be like, hey, that kind of looks like that. We've been influenced by everybody we ever come in contact with. So let's be proud of that. Let's keep enriching our society and our culture by bringing the best of everything and making up our own mythologies.
Right, which is what comics are anyway. They are a modern mythology.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, nowadays a lot of the mythology involves people in spandex. But okay, Maria, what's your view on this?
Just want to piggyback really quick. What was the quote that the guy from the Book of Life said about folklores? He was telling, remember during the thing you were seeing the seminar, he was saying about like how we don't, everything kind of was made up anyways.
Yeah, he said you shouldn't be offended if somebody. It's really good. Go look it up on YouTube. I'm gonna botch it out because because he was talking about how he's creating his own mythologies too, but he was pretty much and it kind of stuck with me. He pretty much said like you can't get offended at somebody creating something from being inspired. Kind of like I guess it's kind of going back into cultural appropriation. As long as you respect the culture and you don't make a mockery or a stereotype of it, then you shouldn't find it as offensive because like it's not how did he said it in such a good
eloquent.
way.
It was
Yeah,
it was like
pretty much like
folklore
he's
that
not,
are established. You could make them up because folklores were made up to begin with.
yeah, but then like
Or like you said, the boogeyman. The boogeyman was made up to basically make kids not do something. So these stories were made up in purpose to teach us something. And so there's no reason why you can't take a teaching and kind of change it and morph it into something that you could create on your own. But the way he said it was like it was so brilliantly put. And yeah, he had a great story to tell about Guillermo del Toro and how he made Book of Life and things like that. But yeah, it's definitely worth the watch if you guys haven't seen Book of Life or even seen that little presentation. It was on Wacom, right? On their website.
yeah, they put it on YouTube. Yeah, and so it was a Wacom presentation. But yeah, it was pretty much kind of like saying like, you know, we get to create our stories now and don't take offense to it. You know, like just respect what you're being inspired by.
Yeah. And if for my thing, it's like if I wanted to add something historical to my story, it would definitely be adding more parts of Puerto Rico that people forget, like Puerto Rico, Old San Juan, and just like the forts and all the different types of battles that were fought on that island, you know, for different reasons. And I think a lot of times you can mix in folklores and stories and, you know, even a sense of like I said, I like horror and thrillers, but I mean, a lot of bloodshed was happened on a small island. There's bound to be things that are going on that we don't know about. And if you mix up things like from other Hispanic cultures, like the cucuy, the boogeyman, and things like that, it's just a great setting for something. A small island, there's nowhere for you to go on an island. So I mean, like that just makes it a scary story in itself. And so, like, yeah, definitely, I would love. I've only read one other book, and it had to do with the cucuy too, but not. It wasn't written as well, and I don't want to put the person out there like that, but it was written with a tone that the person was more Mexican American and not Puerto Rican American. And being around Puerto Ricans, the slang was different, the verbiage was different, and she did a great job as far as descriptives of the area of Puerto Rico, but it's just the way it was told. It didn't have the same tone a Puerto Rican person would have, I would say, but it still made for a good story. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, you mentioned that. I'm glad to hear that as long as the story and the culture, you know, the essence of it is captured, then it's, you know, okay, I guess. Because, you know, like Jack mentioned, with cultural appropriation now, so very, very a part of, you know, the conversation now. I remember there was like what was it, about a year ago or so, some book on Oprah Winfrey's to read list.
Oh yeah.
Was, I don't remember the name of the book or the author offhand, but it was a representation of an older culture, I think Hispanic, and a lot of people say, well, this was a, you know, Caucasian writing this. You know, they have no right to do it, but other people who were, you know, part of the culture were saying, but she got everything right.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's another aspect, I think, of world building, that is getting it right, being consistent on the stuff that you make up.
Yes.
But by the same token, you know, like if you know, all your magic works with your left hand in the air, then, you know, you better not be, you know, putting up your right hand about 20 pages later. Continuity is important, but also in the areas where you do the research, I think people appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because a little personal aside, I used to work for a cemetery, Okay, this probably explains a lot about me. But what annoys the hell out of me is movies and TV where you have the graveside service, and the minute it's over, the caretakers start throwing dirt on top of the exposed coffin. That doesn't happen. For insurance reasons, you have to put a vault over it. It's either polyvinyl chloride or usually concrete. Because when the ground settles again, you have an insurance risk of people walking over it, and tripping on it. Plus, it keeps the grounds looking better. But anytime somebody picks up a wad of dirt and just starts pouring it into the thing, I'm like, no, So, I think that's one thing that's very important about storytelling is the idea of getting it right and researching.
Yeah.
And doing honor by the cultural that you're maybe not appropriating, but you're borrowing it for a few hundred pages, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you mentioned earlier, I was listening to you talking about that quote. Now I really got to look up Book of Life when this is over, which is what good writers make you do. But no, it reminded me of one of my favorite stories by Alan Moore, who's famous for Watchmen.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote the last two stories of the Silver Age Superman back in 1985, I think it was. And it began with a long page of text. And there used to be a feature in the Superman comics called Imaginary Stories, where they could do a what if kind of thing with Superman. And the thing ended with, this is an imaginary story, but then again, aren't they all?
Yeah.
I just love that. And Carl Witzman, let's get back to your comments. Carl Witzman on YouTube says, I'd like to see more Mexican and Puerto Rican stories. Yeah, I have to say, you guys make this, I'm interested in the culture anyway. I'm interested in a lot of different cultures other than the, living in the middle of the corn culture that I grew up with, where everyone looks like me. I'm interested in other cultures, and I think it's something that really is a welcome part of today's fiction, comics and TV, movies. I think it's a great way to unify everyone here. And Carl Witzman adds, the scariest stories are on islands like Dunedin.
Yeah.
Also, the island of Dr. Moreau.
Mm-hmm.
And I was listening to you guys, and I was also thinking of the world's most dangerous game as well. If you can read that thing and not keep your lights on for a couple nights when you go to bed, I'm telling you, there's something wrong with you. Sarah says, stories from various people are their own perspective. It's nice to hear stories from other angles as well.
Yeah.
Agree completely. And here we go, my artist Eric Hawkins from the Zombiful World of Oz. Brian. I can tell you that does happen. Depends on where you are. Been at a funeral like that just last year. We actually filled in the graves ourselves. Eric, you should be ashamed. The groundskeeper should have used those shovels. So anyway, no, every cemetery I know of it, they put the vault. That's why vault sales are so popular, unless you're having a green funeral, which shows that I know too much about death. Anyway, and we'll just keep going. It's a frightening glimpse into my psyche. And Sarah from downstate Illinois says, diversity is refreshing. And then, that's another thing. It's like, I love the fact that, we can all talk about different cultures and assimilate them into fiction. And in a way, kind of illuminate the culture in a way.
Yeah.
Now is, a lot of people, we hear, we're going to get political here for just a second. Oh, please forgive me. But, you hear a lot. I know. He's out of here. Brian's not here anymore. But, no, you hear a lot about, the social justice warriors, etc., who allegedly, because we can't say everything, okay, then we lose the argument, want to have, like just people of a certain demographic tell the stories of a certain demographic, which we all three have agreed is poo-poo. But as long as it all gets right. But they also want to see more of it to the exclusion of other stories. Now, what's more to you? What is more important, the culture or the story? How much would you want to bend to make a good story?
Well, for me as a librarian, when we get books, I'm excited to see other Hispanic writers. But in all honesty, if nobody's doing it, I'd rather have somebody do it, but do it well. You
Yeah.
know, like you said, I don't want people to bring out something like I have no problem with somebody writing about Puerto Rican or Mexican culture or things like that if they respected it. You know, a lot of people, just to bring up something that I've just seen, Petty Dreadful, The City of Angels. That was an amazing new show, but it didn't have a lot to do with the last Penny Dreadful, which was more, you know, Frankenstein, vampires, things like that. But it had to do with like Santa Muerte. It had to do with, you know, the Chicanos in LA at the time, the civil uprising, you know, like all those things like that. But it was nice to see Hispanic actors portraying something that wasn't written by a Hispanic person, but it was done well. And it made you want to look more into the history of that time period to see what really happened, how much they bend and lend from that time period. So for me, I would love to see more people come out that, you know, are Puerto Rican, that are Mexican, that are African American and things like that. But you can't force people to write things if they're not doing it, you know? And there's a lot of independent writers, they get overlooked. We always talk about that, you know, they have really good writing, but they're not with the big box companies. But then we just have to scream louder for those people if we want them to be heard. But yeah, it goes back to I'm okay as long as they research and they respect and people enjoy it and people are not offended by it, then I'm all for that. I'm also the other part of the conversation when it comes to superheroes and things like that. I really don't care if there's an African American, Black, you know, Hispanic, Asian. If it's a Spider-Man, it's Spider-Man. It's fictional. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be, you know, a white guy that's Spider-Man or a white Superman. It could be anyway. He's an alien. To be to be honest, you know.
Yeah.
So when people get really mad about that and they're like, oh, but you know, no, it was written this way. It really wasn't. It's like you said, it's a fictional story. And that means we can play with it because it was made up. And it's only as true as we want it to be. So, you know, and if somebody can do it well, then why not? It could be a female Superman coming out pretty soon, like a really like Wonder Woman style Superman and you know, in the DC universe. And I'm okay with that. Like that's cool too. So that's just my 2 cents. Jack?
Well, I think that it's important to have different voices, and it's important to have different people on the table. For such a long time, it's been kind of like very exclusive to different voices. I'm glad that LGBT community is being represented more. I'm glad that more minorities are starting to tell their stories because I do think that yeah, I could write a story about Japanese mythology, but it's gonna have a Mexican American's voice and a Mexican American's tone. I don't mean no disrespect by it. I mean, I'm not saying if you are not Japanese, don't write Japanese. I'm saying it's important to also have a Japanese voice represent their culture. But when it comes to like the way that I see it is just, you know, like we've been saying this whole time, it's important to respect every culture because if that's the case, then I really won't be able to write about you know, fantasy Europe because I mean, like if it's English or French background, then I would have no right to write about that. I would only have to write about the Spanish Middle East. I mean, yeah, Spanish Middle East, the Iberian Peninsula, and Mexico, and then my stories would have no diversity, and then it would just be me over and over and over. And I think that that's the problem. We just gotta let people just tell their stories, like, and judge them. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, be respectful. That is the main thing. And in my opinion, also find the commonalities that our cultures have. You know, Bob Dylan once said, everybody's got to worship someone in talking about religion. But, you know, it's like, you know, how do the different cultures approach their deities? You know, in what manner do they worship? You know, and right now we're seeing so many things like the Food Channel. You know, they're just not talking burgers and deep frying everything now. You know, you're seeing a lot of great shows on the, you know, YouTube and on, you know, various cable channels about multicultural food.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, food will bring us together. It works with me. But no, I like the idea that, you know, you can use a culture and use it as a platform to start with and then start expanding from there and adding your own spin on it, your own vision. And something I'm gonna, you know, I beat the drum about constantly is the fact that the technology exists now, and the culture exists now that if you watching have a comic book that you want to do, because we got to remember, we got to bring us back to comic books, right? Because that's what this show is about. The whole weekend that you can find like-minded people. A great way to do it is through your library. See who else is checking out the books that you're reading. Start a conversation. We call it networking in the business world, but it's nothing more complicated than just making new friends. And so you start that talk, you find out the things you've got in common. Maybe you start working together, start bouncing ideas off of each other. Libraries, a lot of them open up their halls to people with shared interests. Start a comics club at your local library. I mean, back when I was a kid, we didn't talk about reading comics. In fact, when I was very young, about the time I was learning to read, we were just a few years after Congress investigated comics as a potential source of, cause of juvenile delinquency. So you didn't go around bragging that you read this month's Superman. And after you start getting the secondary sex characteristics that they, mom would just assume you never learn about, that you give up comics. But now comics have become more than that. They've become not just vehicles for movies and television, but they've become ways to express yourself. And as Maria and I talked about yesterday, an educational tool. And what better way to educate someone than to entertain them first? And then they go back and go, oh, I get it now. I get it. I get all these shared experiences. I get the a fantasy world that's not just based on J.R.R. Tolkien or Robert E. Howard, something fresh, and then to find out it's got its roots in something real. And the technology exists that you can print as many or as few copies of your comic as possible. Plus, yesterday we listed the secret sites that tell you all the arcane information. Jack, it's called Google and YouTube.
That's a secret.
Yeah, this is a secret, man, because nobody seems to know where I'm at. They look at me like I just passed the 11th commandment to them or something. So the information's out there, and also there are people like watch shows like this, and something like the MAPLD is so amazing that so many people can come in and share interests and start conversations. Like we've had a whole conversation in our chat room here on StreamYard, friends just getting to know each other. And I guarantee that most of them didn't know each other a year ago, but they came together because some guy was having a show and they all got, we got somebody here. I got to say, hail from your Evil Lynn. I think she means hello. She's Evil Lynn from Masters of the Universe. Because I used to cosplay as Orko. This is before your times. Good God, you got off my lawn. Anyway, Lynn, well, I'm glad you're here, hon. And if you have any questions, please ask them. All right. But anyway, and the thing is, like, you guys are fresh. You guys did a crowdfunding campaign, and that's a viable way of financing your comic book, and also building your platform of friends and contacts. Take two, Brian. Anyway, Clyde Hall has a very good question. What are these Yugels and GooTube of which you speak? Well, yes, one of my friends. Anyway, you can watch this on the rerun, and if you're just catching us, be sure to catch the first part of this conversation because it's awesome. Because I don't say much. Anyway, we've got a few more minutes here, and folks, we would welcome your questions here. And you guys are continuing to work together, looking for opportunities elsewhere. We're creatively speaking, all right? And granted, nobody in 2015 could predict where we're at now, okay? That kind of takes that off the board. The pressure's off. Where would you like to see yourselves creatively, say, 3 to 5 years from now?
Go ahead, Jack.
Hopefully,
Maria.
Hopefully, Brujas would actually finally be represented and on some kind of format, whether it be digital or printed, and not just in my head. I would like to just have that story out already. So hopefully, in 3 years, it'll be out.
That's great. You can do it, man. You can do it. Maria, how about you?
No, yeah, just finish. I really want to publish something. That'd be really, really great. I enjoyed doing a panel for libraries at C2E2 this year. I would love to continue doing something professionally done at C2E2 or another Read Pop convention. I had a lot of fun there. I had a really great feedback from a lot of librarians, and it felt good to be in a room full of other professionals like that. And I never did something on that scale before. So it was just rewarding and refreshing. So a book and more panels. I think I'm pretty good at it, a little bit.
Aces. You're aces, girl. I'm telling you. That's great. Both of you. That's fantastic. Carl Witzman says, when I worked with Mexican families in one community, one lady accused her neighbor of giving her, and I know I'm going to mispronounce this, and these two are laughing, and I took high school French. Malojo. Oyo? Maloyo? What am I saying?
El mal ojo. The evil eye.
Oh, okay. I wondered if that was it because Spanish and French are both, have similar roots. I wondered. Thank you. And I've often thought of writing a story about that. And why not? Carl Witzman is the author of The Mad Gasser Cheerleader of Calhoun County, available on Lulu.com. And it is based on a legendary ne'er-do-well from Mattoon, Illinois, who was pumping hazardous gases in young ladies' bedrooms and stuff like that. So fiction does work. Mandy Madrox, good to see you. I see sometimes author agents looking for, say, LGBTQ authors writing LGBTQ themed stories. Look for agents that look for more diverse authors that will push the publishers to look at the story. That is, and that's an excellent point, Mandy. It's good to see you. Mandy's continues, not color of skin, but I feel like that's also an idea for a perfect world. We still need more change. We do. And I think through fiction, we can probably illuminate a lot of real life. And, because I grew up in a very conservative community, like back in the late 50s, early 60s, and we weren't exactly what you call woke. Okay, we were like the polar opposite of it. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff in the psyche that I'm shoveling out every day, and to make myself a better me, I hope. But yeah, and the thing is, what a lot of people don't realize is that there's more than just the top 5 publishing companies.
Yeah,
there are a number of mid and level and independent publishers who this is their focus. They are doing things for people of color. They are doing things for different cultures, including, the LGBTQ community. I got to look at it because I can't keep up on all the initials some days for all this stuff. But yeah, there's people out there, and you can get into print. And if nothing else, you can do it yourself. All right. It's like the old saying: you want something done, do it yourself. Clyde Hall would like to know, what current comics inspire you, keep you invested in making your own? Excellent question, Clyde. What do you guys read nowadays that fires you up and say, hey, I want to do that too?
Go ahead, Jack.
I've been reading a lot of Dark Crystal, Jim Henson's Dark Crystal. Picked up also the Jim Henson Storytellers Ghost. I'm a huge Jim Henson fan, but I usually go back to the classics. I keep looking up over here. I have Jamie Hewlett's Tank Girl. I have Hellboys, a bunch of Hellboys. I have The Crow. I've got a couple of Batmans. I got Mouse Guard. Yeah, pretty much anything that just looks interesting I've picked up, and there's something to be inspired. And even I have some nonfiction comics, and it's just pick up a comic. You'll be surprised.
Definitely. Maria, how about you?
I started reading some of Joe Hill's work because I just wanted to. I read Lock and Key a long time ago. This was like, I don't know. I want to say 2000, when it first came out, 2006, 2007. Like, internet was there, but it wasn't like the way it is like right now. Like what we're doing right now, it wasn't that. So yeah, I didn't know he was Stephen King's kid. But I enjoyed Lock and Key. When it came back on Netflix, I was like, it was okay. It was campier. It was nicer for a younger audience, but I would hope it would get them to pick up more books and to read graphic novels. But it made me interested in reading more of his work. So I picked up Nosferatu. He did The Fireman, I think it was, Heart Shaped Box. So I have a couple of things on my nightstand that will, my list of books that will never go down. It'll just be the death of me. It keeps going up. But yeah, Neil Gaiman, and like I said, just Joe Hill and Stephen King for me right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the things, and I was promoting this yesterday, and I'll promote it again, hoopla.com.
Yes.
Which is something that it's not like a pirating site. It's not illegal. In fact, it ties into your local library more than likely.
Yes.
I have an account there, and right now you can check out 30 different things per month, whether it's an episode of a television show or music or audiobooks. Right now, by the way, you can get a lot of the Big Finish Doctor Who audiobooks on Hoopla right now, he said happily. And also a number of great comics. And I've discovered quite a number of incredibly well done comics. There's one called Rivers of London about a special division of Scotland Yard that is devoted completely to the paranormal.
Oh, nice.
And it's fantastic because two of the writers are ex-Doctor Who writers.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and it's called Rivers of London. It's Ben Aaronovitch and Andrew Cartmel, former script editor, and it's both in book form and the graphic novels. And they're drawn by Lee Sullivan, who's done a lot of American comics as well. But discovered that, and I'm currently reading The Boys.
Okay, yeah.
You know, because I like Garth Ennis' work and such like that, and but it's a great way to discover a lot of new things. That's where I discovered the new Superman, and it came out at the start of the Rebirth thing 7 years ago from DC Comics. The Chinese government has gotten a hold of Superman's DNA and have created their own version of the Justice League, and it is all steeped in their culture.
Nice.
It's a great read. It's by a guy named Gene Yuen, and I'm Yuen, and I'm blanking out on his last name. I think I took my other books downstairs. He just recently did a 3-part series based on an old Superman radio show, Superman versus the Klan.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which again is fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Illuminating a culture, in this case a cancerous one, that we knew nothing about, because I don't know if you guys knew this, on the radio show there was a guy who had actually infiltrated the Klan and was sending to DC Comics the key words and phrases that these guys would recognize, and would give the you know, like the way you put in jargon, like, you know, if you're going to do something on autopsies, you're going to talk about how you do the autopsy. You're going to call the armpit the axilla rather than the armpit, you know, because that's the technical language. But he sent them these phrases and these code words that they used to communicate to each other, in secret. And all of a sudden, all their secrets are coming out. And said after that show, the Klan membership just plummeted because they got outed. And Gene Yuen Reed, I think it is. But anyway, he wrote, he's writing some great stuff for DC and for independent comic books. But a lot of it is steeped in his Asian culture that, raised in the cornfields back in the Cold War. Yeah, I'm finding that fascinating. So I highly recommend that. Carl Witzman says, I was thinking of Anglo folks who poo-pooed the evil eye, but then weird things and illnesses started happening and they need to seek help.
That actually works. Quick story. My dad's his grandmother, yes, practicing whatever the evil eye. The story he tells me all the time why he believes in these things is that he was my great grandmother's favorite, and he would go visit Mexico not so often, but she never wanted him to go back to the States. So one time they literally left off the property. He gets about maybe a mile away from the house, and he says he got deathly ill to the point where his mom had to turn around, go back to the farm and say, what did you do? And she's on the porch laughing. Tells my dad to drink this, and he just stopped feeling sick. And she was like, but she loved you. Like, she loved you so much she wanted to hurt you to come back for a few more minutes before you left. So yes, he does believe in all those types of evil eyes. And, what do you put on your door, Jack, when you want to ward off the evil spirits? What is it?
Well, there's different things that they put. It's either a horseshoe,
Yeah.
or open scissors right on top of the door frame.
Top of the door. Yeah, so he does believe in all those little things, but yeah, that would make a really good story, Carl.
Yeah, go for it, dude. And Clyde Hall says, excellent choices, both of you. Joe Hill is a main go-to of mine currently too. Yeah, and Stephen King himself has done a few comic books.
Yeah.
I remember there were a pair of comics back in the 80s that were created, one from DC, one from Marvel, using a lot of their characters, and it was kind of a round robin thing. But Stephen King wrote 3 pages of a X-Men book where a spirit is basically starving Kitty Pryde like instantly, and it's scary as hell. So it's really intimidating. And Carleen from YouTube says, didn't realize the evil eye was just a one culture thing.
Oh,
Eastern
no.
Europe. No.
Oh, no, they do have
the evil eye goes
way.
across
Yeah,
the
everybody
world.
has one.
Everybody has some
It's like the
kind of
boogeyman.
evil
Everybody
eye.
has a Baba Yaga. Everybody has
Yeah.
like sort of like creature that comes after kids.
Yeah. And again, the similarities that I mentioned earlier. It's like growing up, my area had a legend about a guy who had been running a still, like like from Prohibition or something, and he got caught in the fire of it, and of course the mash gets on him, and of course burns him, and he goes around killing people as revenge, blah blah blah. And I found so many other parts of the country that had that exact same legend that they thought was theirs. So just the etymology of this I find fascinating too.
Yeah, learning that if you actually look at it, we all kind of are the same. Every culture kind of has an origin story that all has like the same creepy factors.
Yeah.
There's I forget who said it, but so I'm not gonna take credit for it, but I thought it was really clever. We're all one people. We just have different kinds of seasoning on us.
Oh, I like
Del Toro said that.
Was it Del Toro? Okay.
And one of his criterion.
Yeah.
I saw it was Del Toro.
Everything is Del Toro.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's all as far as you need to go. Anyway, yeah, it's been used in several cultures, says Carl Witzman, but I was surprised to see it in modern times, but I should not have been shocked. Legends are used to show a moral. That's true. And a lot of the greatest teachers in history, Aesop used fables to teach people. Jesus Christ, one of the greatest storytellers ever. He used parables to deliver a lot of his messages, and how many other people have used fiction to illuminate certain inequities of the day, whether it's like a Charles Dickens, or who shows how kids were raised, like Oliver Twist, or Upton Sinclair, one of my favorite books. Or we were discussing yesterday Frankenstein.
Yeah.
The original book on alienation.
Yeah.
And being unique in a culture that doesn't understand you. It's like,
tragedy.
oh yeah, it's a book well worth rereading. So we are closing in on the end of the hour, and you two, as always, are amazing.
Thank you so much, Brian.
Oh, I appreciate you both. And here we go. Here, and Carleen says legends are used to keep kids in line.
Yep.
That's true. That's true. Just like the oncoming storm. Yes, that's for all you Doctor Who fans out there. So anyway, another, we gotta get a compliment in. Yay!
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Carl.
Well,
It was a great talent.
sense, like...
Oh no, Jack. You're terrific, dude. Seriously. You both were, and as a result, here, and also we got credit to the people who tuned in today. Thank you all on YouTube and Facebook, and especially the people at the MAPLD event here. And I keep looking at my notes to make sure I said it right. Yes, yay. Anyway, we'll start with Jack, and then we'll end with Maria, who will probably want to have some notes on what's coming up next on this wonderful day. So Jack, we're going to give you the spotlight here. What are you up to? And if people want to follow you, where can they find out your awesomeness?
So you guys can go to my website, Mr. Calavera, CALVERA.com. I have all my stuff there. I'm currently working on Brujas, which is going to look at different cultures and their own ideas of witchcraft, and just gonna tell stories with that.
Ooh, I'm liking. I'm getting a tingle from that. That's awesome. That's great. Thank you, Jack. And now Maria, let's see if I can get you on. Come on, StreamYard. There we go. Come on, Maria, get in there. All right, now we got you. All right, Maria, tell us more about what you got going here, and say a few nice words about the library.
Yeah, definitely. Just want to thank everybody that commented on the panels today and yesterday. Thank you so much. Thank you so much again, Brian, for helping me put this together. Got to shout out Andy again. Thank you for a great connect. Probably going to be friends forever now with Brian because of you. Thank you so much, Andy. But yeah, well, at 5 o'clock, we have a draw along with Ashley. She has a comic called The Ralphs. She's going to show you guys how to draw her, basically her little doggos, two little dogs from The Ralphs. You can pick up her comic through Guerrilla Publishing too. At 5:30, we're going to have Monica from Geeks A Go Go. She's going to do a cosplay makeup tutorial. She's going to transform herself into the Phoenix from the Marvel comics. And then at 6 o'clock, we're going to have a Jackbox game murder trivia party 2. So it's going to be me and my coworker. We'll be in a Zoom chat. You guys can all just basically go on through your mobile devices or your computer to log in to take part of the game. Just a lot of fun to close out the night. But I want to thank everyone that got involved. Yeah, thank you for loving libraries and helping me make this event a success. So I owe it all to all my panelists, all the guests, all the artists, and the people watching. Thank you so much.
All right, and thank you both. And also Carleen, who is married to Carl Witzman, says, yes, Mrs. Carleen is correct. Great panel. Thank you, Carleen. Mwah. Thank you for being here, Carl, and everybody. Appreciate your being here so much. And so I'll close out the show, and then we'll do a card, and then we'll hang around for a bit, maybe afterwards if you like, unless you've got someplace to go. So anyway, I'll take the solo here for a moment here. I'm Brian K. Morrison. We do Never Mind the Furthermore every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m., 9 a.m. Illinois time, which is probably the right time. And we do something like this, but it's a different subject every day, and you are the guest. Also, check out our website, risingtide.pub, where every day we post 2 or 3 different things, including inspiration and illumination and education. Also, please sign up on my free monthly newsletter. Next one will be going out September 1st, where we talk about our travels, what we're going through with Rising Tide Publications, and just whatever's on my mind. And we'll introduce you to marble racing. Who knows what it will do? But anyway, it's free to sign up. Just check out the link below or contact me via Facebook Messenger with your email. We'll get you signed up for that. So in closing, thank you again to Maria and Jack here. They were fantastic, and hope you liked it. If you like this, please share this video, share it out with your friends, make sure they know about it, and follow the rest of what's going on with MAPLD, because it's really fascinating. And thank goodness we've got libraries like this doing this essential service for people right now during the lockdowns. So anyway, in closing, this is Brian K. Morris telling you all, stay smart, stay safe, wash your hands, and never apologize for being awesome. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for indulging me. And we will talk to you down the line. Take care, everyone. And I got to find my there we go, the outro. Smooth Productions. Take care, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to Never Mind the Furthermore, a Rising Tide Publications and Brian K. Morris production. Member of the Comic Book Advocating Network and sponsored by GeekInsider.com. Become part of our show with sponsorship and advertising opportunities. For details, contact advertising@geekinsider.com or visit podcast.geekinsider.com. The Geek Insider podcast is available on your favorite app, so please hit the follow button and share it out to your friends. Because if you don't, you might have to turn in your geek card.